today. Uh, I am going to, it's a perfect show actually today. And Bryan's probably going to diagnose where I went wrong and how this happened to me. But I have Bryan Mirabella with me in studio. And I think you said correctly on Facebook this morning, this is your third appearance on the show.
Yes.
So Bryan is a human performance specialist. And I've always been struck by this title because it's very unique. And we're talking about fitness and wellness, but we're talking about making ourselves the optimal version of who and what we can be. And that's why he's known as a human performance specialist. So I'm going to let you take it away and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're not a personal trainer, why you're not a fitness trainer, why you've dubbed this title for yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really enjoy being on the show. You're great.
Thank you.
Well, I've been a fitness professional for 28 years now, and that's a long time. And I've done pretty much every possible new workout, new fitness routine, new certification you can have. I feel bad for you because you're in pain.
Okay. That's okay.
And
is it that, am I wearing it that bad?
Yeah, you look like you're hurting.
That's fine. Don't look at me.
And it's like every other person out there. I'm 50. You come to an understanding of what you think works best for the body. And what I've realized is that it's constantly changing. I'm always learning new things. I'm always experiencing new and exciting modalities that I can implement into making myself be the best human I could be. And as a breathing certified specialist,
yes, that's what I want to talk about too. Because you came on the show once to talk about that, and it was, and I'm mindful of what you taught, and how it's the short breath through the nose. And people always say take a deep breath, and you dispelled that theory right here on the show, sitting right there. So we'll talk about that. So it's interesting. You say you've been doing this 28 years, and you say that you're 50 and you have a different heightened awareness. It is so true that our bodies age, but they don't necessarily age in relation to our chronological age. I'm turning 40, and I noticed that things are just a little different now than they used to be. And I think you have to be cognizant of that because you have to work to make the optimal version of yourself at every age that you are. And I read this book over the summer, Borrowed Time, The Science Behind Why We Age. It was a great book. And it talked a bit about the best thing you could always do is watch your caloric intake. Like no matter what phase, no matter what fad, ultimately that is what's going to help you to start, baseline. But fitness is such an important part of this regimen. So talk a bit about the aging process on the body.
Yeah, you always have great questions, which means you're a really good listener and you're interested.
I am interested, yes. I'm trying to fight age every chance I get. It doesn't look it right now, but...
Well, it's not about fighting age. It's literally about you're a human strainer, and if you put really tiny particulates in your body, well, I shouldn't say it like that because chemicals can be tiny particulates that still collect in your system. So the most important organs on your body are your kidneys. Mm-hmm. It's not your heart, because in Chinese medicine, your kidneys are the water that give the rest of the organs life, basically. I'm making it very simple. So as a breathing specialist, my mechanism to breathe, and everybody else's on the planet, is to breathe out.
Okay.
We think, that's why people say take a deep breath, because we think oxygen is the mechanism to breathe. But in actuality, the mechanism to breathe is to exhale.
To release. To get rid of.
Okay. To eliminate.
Okay.
So, with respect to aging, it's if my kidneys aren't working, I'm backing up metabolic waste into my interstitial spaces. Now, we talked about this last time, the lymphatic system.
Yes.
So 3 years ago in 2017, well, the lymphatic system is known, but it's not studied at all. So in 2017, the interstitium became an organ. So the interstitium is called the extracellular matrix. So it's the space that's around every cell in your body. So I'm a human being. I have 100 trillion cells in my body. I see myself as one unit, but my skin is holding in all these cells.
Okay.
And my skin is made of cells, one cell at a time.
Yes.
Well, how does each cell attach itself to each other? Through this connective tissue, lattice matrix substance, viscous lipid-based, which is fat-based substance, and that's your lymphatic system, but it's also called your extracellular matrix. And it's made up of mostly polysaccharides, which are sugars. So the denser the food, or I should say not the denser the food, but we have a beautiful plate of food on our plate. We have chicken breast, salad, some vegetables, and we say, ooh, this is a very healthy meal. Now, I practice being a fruitarian personally. I just made it my first full year eating raw. I didn't make it the entire year eating raw. We can jump back to that. But my goal was to put as little density into my body so my body can clear out the obstructions. So as I'm breathing, I'm exhaling waste.
Okay.
We say CO2 is a waste gas, but that's not true because my whole body is made up of carbon. The membranes of my cell are made up of carbon, which means I need carbohydrates to live. But there are better carbohydrates
Right,
than
there
others.
are good carbs and bad carbs.
Now let's get back to that plate of food. So now I have chicken breast, vegetables, and a salad. And I say, this is a very healthy meal. And I'm not going to gain weight from it because I have the right macronutrients. I have my protein, I have my carbohydrates, I have a little bit of fat. But what we don't ever talk about is once I take that, what I consider to be healthy food, and I put it into my belly, how does it mix in my belly? Does the food become acidic or alkaline? There's only two sides of chemistry.
So your pH levels.
Right.
Right. Okay.
That's it. This can't even be argued. There's nobody on the planet that can argue this fact. Because what they're going to want to do is they're going to want to say, well, the paleo diet or whatever. But after you eat your meal, if you tested your pH balance, you'd know whether the food went acidic or alkaline in your body.
And what's the difference? So what are the effects on your body if it goes in each way? So if food is acidic, what happens?
Great
And if
question.
it's alkaline, what happens?
Well, if your kidneys aren't functioning the way they're supposed to, as the food becomes acid in your body, depending on your age, of course, the older you are, the more you're going to hold on to.
Okay.
So when the food becomes acidic, and if the kidneys aren't filtering, it's going to take the metabolic waste that it can't eliminate through the urine,
Okay.
that it can't eliminate through the skin, because the skin is a third kidney. Because when you're sweating,
Yes.
you're releasing toxins. Your skin breathes, right? So I'm very dynamic. I'm this life force that's living under this umbrella of what we call God, of whatever it is. It's definitely giving us life.
Agreed.
And we are intertwined with it. We can never say we are separate from it, which is why I will never put chemistry in my body to try to make my body heal. That's why the placebo effect is kind of a foolproof.
So you believe the body can heal itself?
Yes.
By what you're put
by reducing the obstructions I put in it. So every time I put food in my body, I want to make sure that it's going in alkalines. Now I'm a fruitarian.
And what explains? I mean, it is pretty much what it sounds like, but there's more to it. So explain to our listeners.
I eat fruit all day long. And people immediately will say, what about the sugar? Well, again, I'm a carbon being. And my extracellular matrix, the stuff that holds me together. So if I didn't have any fascia in my body would be a puddle of cells on the floor. So that extracellular matrix is held together with a ground substance, and most of them are called polysaccharides, and they need sugar. So when you put nature's most perfect food, which is fruit, in your body will start getting rid of the metabolic waste that it's trying to get rid of.
Okay.
You only have body fat because your kidneys aren't filtering. Body fat isn't like, okay, when I lost 10 pounds, I lost fat. Now, if you're 10 pounds overweight, you're chronically sick, but you don't even know it. Doesn't mean you're walking around with a fever or cold,
right,
but you are sick because you can't get rid of waste. And you're not supposed to have waste on your body because your kidneys can't get rid of this waste. So what I'm trying to do is eliminate the metabolic waste that's within my interstitial spaces. So now...
And that comes through diet alone, the waste elimination, correct? It comes through being cognizant of what you're putting in your body. I mean, is it making sure you also stay hydrated so you're flushing out toxins continuously?
Another great question. So I regularly see an acupuncturist and a chiropractor every single week.
Okay.
So I'm not just doing these experiences and giving you my own opinion. I get feedback from doctors that I consider to be a better source of information along the health spectrum.
Okay.
So every week I go, I get better and better. Like your tongue is the magic mirror of your body. So you could see all the damage to your organs in your tongue. And my tongue, when I started a year and a half ago, was literally brutal. I had, and I look to be I'm in incredible shape.
No, absolutely.
But it doesn't mean I don't have metabolic waste weighing me down. Like my interstitial spaces, they're like cellophane. And the cellophane gets hardened over time. So it gets impacted. So a great example is if I have a field of snow and I'm the first person to walk through the snow, and then 1,000 people are behind me and they step in every single one of my footprints. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, when they step in my footprint, it's going to be a little imbalanced. That's like learning to walk again. Mm-hmm. So now the snow's got all this too much adaptability and you're falling around. But now as more people start to walk in my footprint, the footprint becomes more solid. So now if you think about it, now I'm learning to walk and I'm becoming a master at walking because it takes 10,000 steps or 10,000 swings to become a master at anything. So now after 10,000 steps through the snow is really good. It's got good footing, but more people are walking in those steps. Okay. They don't stop. Now the bottom of the snow starts to become impacted, right? It fell from the top of the snow level down to the bottom. It's becoming icy. Inside the ice is where my nerves are, where my lymph is, and where my blood vessels are. That's my interstitial spaces. But now those interstitial spaces are impacted, so the nerves can't do their job.
So you're not performing optimally. Right. Systems aren't doing their job.
So all those metabolic waste products are now in that impacted snow, which means there's no blood flow, which means there's no oxygen.
Right. No, it shows the systemic nature of everything.
Right.
Everything is connected. So you begin with your clients. And you look first to look at their food intake to see from a nutrition standpoint.
How to breathe properly.
So it's breathing first, breathing to release waste, to release toxins. Then it's cognition of what you're eating for the pH levels, the acidity, the alkaline levels of food, and what you keep working towards the goal of what's going to help your kidneys have better filtration and the removal of waste from the system.
Exactly.
So now the fascia of the muscles and the muscular health and your physical component to this, what does that entail?
Doing dynamic rhythmical movements. So I don't do any static stretching. I know there's a lot of people listening to this podcast who love yoga, and yoga is great, but ideally yoga is meditation. Yes, you can create what we call flexibility in the body, but in truth, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into everybody's brain right now is there's no such thing as stretching. There never has been, and there never will be. You don't stretch. You create space between the cells. And when you have space between the cells, remember, we're looking at a microscopic level. So we're like, down at the very bottom, but the cells need space. When you're tight, you're impacted. So that means you're holding on to waste. Means you're getting no blood flow, no oxygen, so you're not eliminating waste. So the reason you're tight is because you're not eliminating waste. It's not because you need to stretch.
Okay.
So there's no such thing as stretching. When I get more flexible, all I've done is create space within my body.
So that feeling that you get when there's a tight muscle and you're just, there's so many different ones you could do. I wish I could do one now, but
is lymphatic dysfunction.
Okay, so let's talk then a bit about the lymphatic system. You hear this term lymphatic drainage. There's some spas that offer that. Talk a bit about the functionality of the lymphatic system.
Great.
And how we can become more aware of it and simple things we can do to promote it.
Great. Well, there's two fluids in your body only. Just like food goes in either alkaline or acid. Well, there's only two fluids in your body. 20% of it is blood. 80% of it is lymph. So in my mind, the 80% is more important than the 20. So if I have this beautiful house, it's a mansion. I got this great kitchen. I have all this organic food. I start cooking the food, but my septic system was broken. They put it in dysfunctionally. So now all the crap from the septic system is now in my kitchen and all my food goes bad.
Oh, there goes the meal then.
Right.
I'll pass.
Right. So it's not about what I'm putting in. It's about what is my ability to get rid of my garbage working. Because if I don't get rid of the garbage, it's going to back up into the house and all the good food's going to go bad. So you stimulate the lymph by putting in foods that create an astringent pull, which is fruits. Fruits are naturally astringent.
And by the way, this is all fruits?
Yeah, but there are food combining makes a difference. So you should only eat citrus with citrus, melons with melons, and fruits with fruits.
It is so funny, the disparity in advice out there. I went plant paradox diet, Dr. Gundry, in September, and he's anti-fruit, except certain fruits, mangoes and bananas, he swears by, and then everything else to make sure that it's an in-season fruit. So, but it's funny because there's so many different approaches, and you're right, there are fads out there, and it's hard to know what to believe. But what you're offering listeners and viewers is kind of the science behind what you're saying, which I think is important when they see this logical connection, when it just makes sense.
Yeah,
I think it adds to the validity. So you're saying, keep your fruits together, citrus with citrus, berries, is it true? They have this antioxidant.
Yeah, but they have to be eaten either with another berry or alone. You can't mix them with other fruits.
Okay,
because
so in one sitting, though, is what you're saying. So throughout the day, you can have these several different fruits, but at one time, one sitting,
you should eat solo,
keep it the same.
mono food eating.
Okay.
You don't want to mix. Again, we don't look at it as mix. You get a whole plate of fruit, you think, okay, this is great. And I'm mixing all these fruits, but they're going to turn acidic in your belly because they don't work together.
So keeping things that work together.
Yeah. In our life, we eat things together, but 1,000 years ago, people found a berry bush. They ate berries. They didn't have the berries and then go, okay, there's a bush a mile down the road that has peaches, so I'm going to take my berries with me and go eat peaches together.
You got what you got.
Right.
Do you find it satisfying and filling?
I do, actually. So in the last year, February 25th was my first full year raw.
Okay.
But there were definitely moments where I ate cooked food because, well, I would call it I lost my discipline. I'm a wrestler by trade, so for me, this last year was wrestling season every day. And I say to myself, every day I wake up, I say, win the day every day. Mm-hmm. So that means eat as much fruit as I can until nighttime, and at nighttime I have avocado with leafy greens only. I don't eat vegetables that grow below ground, again, because I'm caring about what I'm putting in my digestive system and if they turn alkaline or acid. And is it hard for me to digest? Certain vegetables need to be cooked in order to be digested well by the human system.
Oh, yes.
But I don't eat vegetables. I only eat leafy greens with my avocado at night because it gives me a little bit of feeling of full. But what I teach people is how to improve proper blood flow to their body. So now I have a tight hamstring muscle, even though there's no such thing as a hamstring muscle, because remember, the muscle that makes up a hamstring is 20 trillion cells, but none of those cells are touching. So in fact, there's really no hamstring muscle. It's only part of this lattice type structure that is the human being. We call it a hamstring, but there's no such thing. There's no such thing.
Okay.
So
interesting.
So what I do is I help people to stimulate blood flow by using a Class 1 registered medical, FDA registered medical device that stimulates blood flow. It's an electroceutical. And if I can stimulate blood flow to parts that are deficient, means I get oxygen to the parts that are deficient.
Walk us through the visual of this. I'm trying to envision what this is. It like a stim pad that's hooked up to a machine when you're giving really electrical stimulation?
It looks like a yoga mat.
Okay.
You unroll it. You stick it in like an Apple computer. It's got a magnetic, a way to attach magnetically.
Not spikes, but
Yeah.
yeah. I saw this. Maybe I saw this on your Facebook page.
Yeah, it's revolutionary. It's revolutionary. I can't talk about anybody else's success stories. But all I know is I had horrific shoulder pain for 3.5 years trying to overcome my wrestling stance. And in 4 weeks of using this device, I no longer have shoulder pain.
But it makes so much sense that the blood flow to a region, and the renewal of cells and bringing, bringing reoxygenated cells to
and
something
the elimination
is healing.
of
Waste. Well, again, it's a formula that makes a lot of sense. But when you hear this at first, there's probably some, oh my gosh, what is this guy talking about? But I understand what you're saying. And although, there's different approaches with different experts, different diets, different fads, ultimately the elimination of what's toxic in our body
is the most important.
And I think that does slow the aging process down with, the invigoration of cells and oxygenated cells and blood flow to certain regions. There is a science behind that's going to slow the aging process down because we are the cells in our body.
Right.
So if they're breaking down and they're lifeless, it's going to, it starts internally. Everything starts internally, and then it gets to the outside. And in terms of aging, for mobility and joint health and the ability to do that for as long as you can is only going to keep you here and healthier longer. So what do you advise clients of yours to do as they come into 50s, 60s, 70s? How do you keep the system functioning optimally?
To eat less, to make sure that what you're eating doesn't turn acidic in your belly.
Can you give us some other, besides fruit, what are some other foods that can have that alkaline quality in your system?
Well, the steps would be fruit, then vegetables.
But what kind of vegetables?
Nuts.
So in my diet, like nightshade vegetables are a no-no. And it's true. I was getting so sick. I loved eggplant. And I'm not a meat eater.
Italian.
So of course, exactly. So you got to have something. So I finally realized, could it be I'm getting sick like every week? Then I realized the culprit. And then I read my book, and it was nightshade vegetables and the acidity and tomatoes and the seeds. So you know what? And even squash. I thought I was the healthiest person in the world. Butternut squash.
Yeah, because we're told that butternut squash has a lot of really good things in it for you, which it does. But how does it get from being a squash to being nutritious for a human being?
Well, I have to tell you, you know what? It was they were hard habits to break, but it has made a difference in terms of digestion.
That's good.
So vegetables are good, but now I watch which vegetable that I eat, and that's why it was called the plant paradox. So asparagus, leafy greens, I still eat. Avocados, obviously, are amazing. But any protein in the system, do you advocate?
Well, if you look on PubMed.gov and you search mother's milk, you'll see that there's only 2.5% protein in mother's milk.
Really?
And maybe 4% fat, which means the rest is 94% carbohydrates, which are sugars.
The other thing,
the perfect neurochemistry on the planet? Fruit, because it's actually the reproductive sex organ of the plant.
Is the fruit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're eating the perfect
fact.
neurochemistry for your body.
Obviously, dairy, you probably advocate against.
I would never eat dairy.
And I have to tell you, that's another thing that I did. That's been life-changing. The elimination of dairy has been life-changing. And just all the things that you hear about inflammation in the body. And it's a real thing. I mean, rampant effects of inflammation. And so much of the disease process comes from an internal inflammation. So that I'm the strongest supporter of.
Well, everybody's worried about coronavirus, and that's ridiculous because I can't get sick, but my body can be imbalanced. And if I'm imbalanced, if my nervous system's imbalanced, if my pH is all over the place, then I'm going to be more susceptible to getting something.
Well, it's a compromised immunity, a compromised system. You know, healthy people can't. Exactly, it's your body's ability to fight it, or exactly. So we are what's inside of us. It's so true. Our time is drawing to a close. I want people to know how to get in touch with you because you do have a very unique approach to health, but it seems to be working, and it does make a lot of sense. Removal of waste. So how can people find you, listeners and viewers?
My website is called quantumfitness.org.
Okay, quantumfitness.org. You're on Facebook as well?
Facebook as well, Bryan Mirabella, or Instagram, BRY Beast, Bry Beast on Instagram.
Okay, and quantumfitness.org. Org. Probably the easiest way. There's email on there.
Sure.
Take control of your health, everyone. That's the
Take
best.
control
You
of your
know,
health.
you can change your health.
Win the day every day.
Win the day every day. I love that. What better way to start off a week on a Monday?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Wonderful insights as always. As I turn my body around because I'm not in optimal condition right now. Thank you all for watching and listening. Thank you for taking the time to listen as we took the time to talk. Have a great day, Westchester. Win the day
every day.
Sounds great.